Customer Spotlight. So I'm really excited to introduce David Duncan. He's the IT hardware relationship manager at AAA. For the past 5 years, AAA has used AssetTrack to manage over 50,000 assets, IT and payment devices across 13 different states, supporting 11,000 employees, most of which are sitting in a remote location like their homes. So you can imagine David plays a key role in keeping their hardware environment really running smoothly. And we're really thrilled to spotlight their experience today. So before I get into it, welcome, David.
Hi,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
Welcome. Thanks.
Yeah, and thank you for turning on your camera for us today. David, you are using AssetTrack in a way that's completely different than most of our other customers are. You are taking a core capability and you've applied it in a completely creative way to solve a problem that you guys had at AAA. So with that said, what problem were you trying to solve when you first decided to use AssetTrack for managing your credit card readers?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. And glad to be here. Yeah, the problem that we had encountered was with our credit card devices and the auditing of those devices. We have a field controls group that works with all of our branch offices and basically any location that has a credit card device that takes credit card information or PII information. And they were having to go through, the branch managers were having to go through and physically inspect each and every credit card they had, device that they had at their location each and every day. They had to record it into an Excel spreadsheet. Then they had, at the end of the week, they had to submit that Excel spreadsheet to the field controls office and to audit. And then once a month, they would have to go through and do a summary of all of that and submit that as well. So field controls had come to me and said, hey, is there a better way of doing this? This is taking up a lot of time for our managers, and we just did this self-certification audit. What can we do? So so that really kind of opened up the door. I said, hey, I think if I can, talk with, Michelle and Jeff at AMI, we might be able to do something here. So with that, we were able to then redefine the form in that, identified by the form factor model being a credit card device, to create a form link on our ServiceNow main page to where when a user comes in, they simply log in, come in, inspect their device. It takes about 30 seconds after they log in to click the link. It recognizes through single sign-on who they are, what assets they have assigned to them. It's only bringing up the credit card device that they have assigned to it. And they're simply answering a question. Has it been, I have the device, it's not been tampered with, or hey, the device has been tampered with, which kicks off a whole nother discussion here that we can probably talk about in a few minutes. But all in all, the process, became very streamlined, and it gave our field controls group and our audit group a real-time reporting for all of these devices, and alerted us immediately if there was a problem with the device.
That's cool. So creative. What made you realize that, okay, we have this asset tracking system? Like, what made you realize that that same system maybe could help with this physical device integrity across all these branches that you have?
Yeah, really, it was a timing thing. We had just completed doing our self-certification audits across the company. We were, fairly successful with that. As you know, with COVID, COVID changed the landscape for a lot of companies, to where Those that had folks in brick and mortar facilities, those folks were still having to come in. But a lot of our workforce, we had 7 call centers that wound up, we sent that workforce home remotely now. So we've got about 70% of our workforce now working either remote or in a hybrid environment. So being able to go through the self-certification audit and have a lot of success with that, I said, hey, why can't I use this form? I just need to filter this form, modify this form a little bit to make this process very simple, very easy to use. And, the more simple and the more easier it is for them to do, the better the adoption rate will be with, getting people to do this.
Yeah. How did you guys do that? How did you guys figure out? So is it correct to say that some of the prep work that you had to do, because things don't happen automatically, right? You had to do some prep work that had to assign those devices to those maybe branch managers or something in order for the daily audit to know who was validating which device, right?
Yeah, we had a lot of managers that wanted to keep all the assets under their area of responsibility and had a lot of them assigned to themselves. And so when we started going through the self-certification audit, we laid some ground rules and said, if you have this asset, if it's on your desk, you're using it, the asset's now going to be assigned to you. This was kind of a win-win situation for us. So one, the self-certification audit helped us to identify who had which devices. And then secondly, we had a lot of managers that had a lot of spare devices in their cabinet locked up. I think I had one manager that had I want to say 25 or 30 credit card devices in a locked cabinet. And once they identified, hey, I don't need to keep all of this because I have to now go through and audit all of these on a daily basis, and they didn't want to have to go through that. I said, hey, just return them back to us. Keep 2 or 3. We want to make sure that something happens, you've got a spare on hand, but you don't need 25 or 30 of these devices. So we wound up getting a lot of inventory back, and the managers now, instead of them having to waste their time and go around and inspect all of these devices, it's being done by the employees. If the employees, it was a simple process for them. So it just turned out to be a win-win situation for us just by, me looking at AssetTrack beyond what it was intended for. And this kind of falls in line with that. We need to audit these on a daily basis. And for any company that's out there, I think we all know, the last thing we want to see is our company spotlighted because, someone's credit card information or personal information got compromised and, got put out on the dark web or something like that. So this is very important. A lot of our folks understand this. We communicate these things frequently. So it was just a matter of looking at, how can I use AssetTrack a little bit differently to solve this problem? And it worked out. It was very successful.
Yeah, that's great. What a great story. So can you walk us briefly through what a typical daily self-certification audit looks like or how it works from inspecting the device to the reporting part?
Yeah, so we have a couple of different credit card devices in our environment. Some are the Ingenico devices where you've got the swipe and the pin pads, and we also have MagTech credit card and check swipes devices, all which retain credit card information. So as we've trained the users, they simply come in whichever device they have at their desk. They're going to physically touch it, see if there's any skins or anything that possibly the device was tampered with when they walked away from lunch or overnight or whatever the case might be. So they're just simply doing a very simple physical inspection. They come in, they log into their computer. As soon as their computer boots up, we have the browser load up automatically at the beginning of their day. So they're simply clicking on the link to go to ServiceNow. Right at the top banner of ServiceNow has the self-certification audit. They click on that. There's a drop down for the credit card self-certification audit. They click on that. It recognizes who they are by single sign-on, brings up the credit card device that's assigned to them. They click on the dog tag and answer the question and submit it. And now I've got, I think, pretty close to 900 users across our footprint logging these in across 3 different time zones. And by 11, 12 o'clock, I have pretty much 100% reporting accountability, across the enterprise that these devices are, not been tampered with. They're fully operational and no issues. Field controls, audit, they now have a real-time view with this as well because they're getting that reporting as well.
Yeah, that's cool. And that's no small feat, right? That's a lot happening in a very small amount of time. So now, David, we know that everything isn't always sunshine and roses and rainbows. So how did the staff handle the change? Because we all know that organizational change can be really challenging.
Yeah. So people were complaining initially, hey, I just did the self-certification audit. Why do I got to go through this again? Why do I got to do this on a daily basis? This is time consuming. And, we simply answered the questions for them. One, we made it very simple. It takes 30 seconds to do. This is not a time intensive task that, is going to take, all day for you to complete. The managers, they got a lot of time back because they weren't having to walk around and do all of this. They didn't have to fill out the reports. The report became automated for them. So we got the support from management. We got the support from their VPs. Now I've got field controls and audit coming back and going, hey, this is great. Now we've got real-time reporting in that. So everybody was in alignment, moving in the same direction. It was just, helping our employees to understand the importance of these inspections and these audits and this task so that, we didn't wind up on the 6 o'clock news, in a bad light. So everybody understood that. Once we kind of said, hey, this task isn't going to take you but 30 seconds to do. It's an easy one and it solves a big problem. So everybody kind of followed in line with that.
That's great. That's great. Not easy to do, but you guys are doing it. So it's super exciting. So you said, I think, around 900 users, you're running about 600 to 1,000 audits a day. How do you, I guess, I think you kind of already answered it, but I'm going to ask you anyway to make sure we didn't miss anything. How did you make the process fast and consistent across all the locations? Because there's a lot of moving parts to coordinate.
Yeah, so like I said, we working with the field controls and working with the managers, we pushed them to do this, and there was a lot of communication between field controls and the branch managers and the leadership over those locations that had those devices, really pushing them to get their employees to be accountable to do this. So initially up front, it took some follow up, hey, we've got, Jane and, the Omaha branch and, she hasn't done her audit today. What's going on? Okay. Jane's on PTO. Okay. Well, we understand that, or she's out sick today. We understand life happens in that. So, for the most part, we're looking for consistency, and when we don't see the consistency is where we start to inquire, or, like I said, if someone's submitting a, hey, I've got a device and it's been tampered with, now I've got the employees who are doing the physical inspections to start raising their hand, talking to their manager, hey, I've got a device, that it's been tampered with. The last thing we want to do is, hey, take 10 more customers and come on in and, compromise us even more, right? And no, they know, hey, I got to stop. I can't take any customers. I can't take any payments right now until, we get this situation resolved.
Awesome. So now you have real-time visibility. How in ServiceNow? So how has that changed how your teams are responding to those potential security issues?
Yeah, great question. So again, this is a spotlight item. As soon as someone submits their audit and they flagged it as I have this device, but it's been tampered with. One, it sends an email alert immediately to the field controls office, the audit group, as well as our information security group, and then the a report is also generated in an email sent to their manager as well. So sometimes our managers have multiple branches, so they may not be at the branch that day should that situation occur. But whether it's an assistant manager or supervisor that is at the location, communications are happening almost immediately as soon as that's submitted, and that to say, hey, stop what you're doing, pull it out. We know that I already talked about our managers having, some had large inventories. We reduce those inventories, but we do have a hot spare on hand. We can pull it out. We can, exchange that device, stop them from servicing any more customers and, possibly, expanding the compromise,
Yeah.
even further than what it may or may not be.
Yeah, that's great. So important that mitigating that risk as fast as possible. So,
Mhm.
David, I have one more question, but before I do that, just to kind of summarize, you said you guys are doing or approximately 900-ish users are performing these audits, these inspections every single day, and they're
Mhm.
completed typically by noon every day. That's
Sure.
huge
Yep.
across all these branches, right? And it sounds like this new process and exercise has had a lot of benefits for you. One being you guys didn't even maybe anticipate just how many unused devices you were going to get returned. So that's a
Mhm.
huge benefit that maybe you didn't even consider coming out of the gate. You
Yep.
decreased the time of the inspection, automated events, to mitigate those risks when things are tampered with. Managers got time back in their day. Is that all accurate?
That's all accurate.
All right,
Yeah.
that's
This
that's
this was a
really,
big this was a big win for us.
yeah, huge win. So last but certainly not least question, what would you say to other organizations who are considering expanding the use of AssetTrack beyond the normal IT laptops and keyboards and things like that? And what's been your biggest takeaway?
Yeah. So, I know we were chatting yesterday and today, and, asset management is not that, exciting, opportunity that everybody wants to grow up and become an asset manager, right? But it is it is needed, and
Yeah,
it has a lot of value, right? So, it, my my thing to other folks that are, in the same situation as I am is, the cost of doing business is getting more costly each and every day. I think we all know that. So we're all looking for ways to save money, find efficiencies, put more time back in our day, so we can, spend time on the what I would consider, higher priorities or more important things to, that we've got to get done. And in this particular situation, I was able to look at AssetTrack at, what it could do. And just going through the self certification, I was able to look at, hey, is there another way that I can utilize this tool? In that, just with a modification of a form, which I want to say it took your team, maybe a half hour or an hour to create for me, another hour with our ServiceNow team to put the link on the page, and then it was all about how do I, how do I communicate this with the leadership and the field controls and audit, and that get the buy-in. But really, it's looking at how can I use this in a different manner or a different way to solve another problem. And believe it or not, sometimes the most simple process changes bring some of the biggest results and some of the best results. And that was just a simple change. So it's really just kind of, sitting back, taking a deep breath and looking at it just a little bit differently, and how can I maximize the use of my tools.
that's just fantastic. David, thank you so much for sharing your story and just for being so open about your journey and even the struggles you had initially, to get people's buy-in. It's just incredible. And I hope that this has sparked a few ideas for all of the rest of you listening. And David, you're going to be available during the Q&A in case anybody has questions for you, I believe. And then last but certainly not, you will be?
Yes, I'll be here available for questions.
Perfect. And last but certainly not least, David is the reason for my spot in last month's webinar about reducing ghost IT asset property taxes. And I just wanted to give credit where credit was due. David's doing some incredible things. Thank you so much, David. I really